Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Sports Ball Talk Show. Joined by Gian and Frank, as always. Gonna start off with a little update on the Damar Hamlin situation. Posted a video yesterday talking about it, but we're gonna give a little update before we get into everything else. Got a couple graphics here. One being the entire team praying around him. The other being a lot of tweets, just him kind of getting prayers from everyone around the league. Everyone is talking about this guy right now and all the things that he's done. One of the big things that people are talking about, as a positive note, is the charity that he actually has, and it's no less of a charity that he owns and more so something that a cause that he's trying to raise money for, and that is raising money to get toys for children who are in poor enough situations that they can't get them on their own. And his goal was $2,500, and as of recording this, I think it's at about $4 million right now in less than 24 hours. So it's great to see people come together like that. But with Hamlin specifically, an update from last night, but quick recap actually. We'll go first of all for those of you who are hearing about this for the first time. In the Bills-Bengals game on Monday Night Football, late in the first quarter, the Bengals were driving down the field. Pass T. Higgins runs down, gets tackled by Hamlin. Hamlin stands up and collapses, a second or two later, and no one really knows what's happening, so they cut to commercial, obviously, like they usually do during injuries, to kind of see what happens, let him get up, get off the field, recover, maybe summon another player, whatever it may be. He didn't get back up. We come back from commercial break, and he's still down, but now there's a whole team around him of medics and the rest of his teammates. Everyone's on their knees. Goes to another commercial, comes back, and now there's an ambulance on the field. And it's back and forth of this for over 20 minutes before they really tell us what's happening, and that is that Hamlin went down. They don't really know why at the time, but they start administering CPR because he has no heartbeat. It's not really, it's working, but not to the degree that he's going to be able to get up and be okay. So they load him up into the ambulance, take him off the field, and take him to the hospital. They have to intubate him. He gets declared in critical condition. Everyone around the league is praying for this guy at the time. Everyone's saying that the game is not important anymore. This man's life is, and I think everyone agrees with that. All of us here certainly do. And so a little update positive this morning is that his vitals have returned to normal from what we've seen. Now, a lot of this is speculative because we haven't heard anything officially from the NFL or from Hamlin himself, but his marketing guy and one of his best friends said that this morning that his vitals are back to normal. We don't really know what it means going forward, if he's going to be okay to play, what kind of long-term damage he might have suffered, but that's what we've heard right now. And what the going, I shouldn't say theory, but what we've been told so far is what happened is a cardiac arrest, so his heart stopped. He took a bad hit to the chest. It didn't really seem like it was that bad of a hit, but you never know until after the fact with those kind of things. So it's a tragic situation. The Bills-Bengals game got postponed, and then this morning officially got canceled. They're not going to do it again this week. We don't know if they're going to reschedule it for a future week because it's kind of late in the NFL. We don't know if they're just going to wipe it off the books altogether and go on win percentage for their seeding. But once again, that all seems very irrelevant right now with what's going on. But everyone is praying for Hamlin, as are we. We hope he makes a good recovery. It was a very emotional night. Everyone on the field and commentators were all in tears talking about this. The players trying to get to a point where they can finish the game, and obviously it didn't happen, and it can't be expected to. The coaches, both Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor, came together and decided that it's best to just cancel the game for now, postpone it until we hear back about Hamlin, because it's not one of those injuries where, not that breaking your leg isn't bad, but that's an injury where you're awake, you're conscious, they can cart you off the field and then make sure you're okay, and so the players can go in knowing at least they're alive. But this is not one of those. This is one where their teammate left and they didn't know what the status of his life was, and at the end of the day, it's just a game, and the brotherhood that these players make is worth so much more than that, and so that no one could continue this game, and I don't think anyone expected them to. So I talked to Gian a little bit last night. What are your thoughts about the whole thing, Frank?
Yeah, I think that, you guys did a fantastic job of kind of summarizing things last night. Sorry I wasn't able to make it on. But, then this morning as well, just, kind of, it's scary because you never know what's going to happen, I guess, when you're playing football like that. And it's just sad, that it did happen. I feel bad for, T. Higgins, because he's got to feel, terrible, just even though it wasn't really his fault. And the people that were playing, at the time that he was, because that's just a traumatic thing to, have happen. And obviously, like, our thoughts and prayers are with Hamlin right now, and hoping that he does make a full recovery and is able to hopefully even play again after this. But I think you were mentioning before something interesting about no one was expecting them to play. Apparently, and I saw this on Twitter from a couple different people. I'm not sure how valid the sources are, but the NFL, I guess, was expecting them to go back out on the field afterwards, and the players from both teams gave some pushback and were like, "Hey, we're not going to play tonight. That's just disrespectful." So, if that is true, that's a little disappointing out of the NFL. But other than that, I mean, I hope just hope for the best for him. Yeah.
That's one of the things that's actually been talked about a little bit more today than yesterday, because yesterday it was nothing but let's make sure he's okay. Now that we're getting word that his vitals are returning to normal, he has a heartbeat, he's breathing. People are talking about some of the other aspects, and one of those is what you just mentioned with them being expected to play, because no one really knows who said what or why people thought a certain thing, but it seemed like they were going to play again, because the commentators at one point said that they had received word that they're going to do a 5-minute warm-up and then get back into it. So you see Joe Burrow on the sidelines, throwing the football, and you could tell he's not there mentally. He's not in it, even though it's not his teammate. He's such a great guy, and he obviously cares. And same thing with the rest of the Bengals team. And you can see Stephon Diggs trying to rally his team on the sideline. So it seemed like they were going to get back in there and play, but no one wanted to. I mean, Stephon Diggs is one of those guys that can rally anyone and any team. But even after he spoke, the team was still crying on the bench, and completely understandably so. And then the coaches came together like, we both agree we're not playing. None of the team wants to play. So I don't know if that was something that, the commissioners like Roger Goodell said, hey, we're going to play in 5 minutes. And maybe it's not because anything against Roger Goodell. Maybe he didn't think that was that the injury was what it was at the time. It was just, okay, there's an injury. Let's get him off the field and continue the game like with most injuries. Or if maybe the players just thought that's what was going to happen because that's what usually happens. Or maybe the refs said something because that's what usually happens, or what. We don't really know with that whole situation why there was a thought that they might play again. But then they went back to the locker room and were kind of, I think, just waiting to see. Because I think the consensus was, at least from what it seemed from a viewer's perspective, is that if they get word that Hamlin's okay, they'll take a breather and then go play. But the biggest thing is they can't play not knowing he's okay. And so I think whenever they were sitting in the locker room for about an hour or so before they didn't really confirm whether or not the game was going to be canceled or not, everyone on Twitter saying, cancel the game, cancel it already, this is ridiculous. And then I think some people were saying, okay, well, let's see if Hamlin's okay first, because if he's okay, then we can finish the game. But at the end of the day, it got postponed and canceled, and that was exactly what needed to happen, given what happened. But the other thing is the T. Higgins thing, because like you said, it's not T. Higgins' fault. And I think that the other side of this, and not that it needs to get as much attention as what's going on with Hamlin, because what he's dealing with is far worse than anything else we can even mention right now, but is how much blame T. Higgins going to put on himself. I mean, there's people in his comments on every social media platform telling him it's his fault, like saying, T. Higgins, this is your fault, why would you do this? Which
is ridiculous and uncalled for.
It's ridiculous. It's not his fault. That was a routine hit. I mean, honestly, it was just the way things happened. I mean, you can't predict whether or not you're going to injure someone when you're doing a hit like that. Like, he was just lowering his shoulder and trying to go through and get a couple more yards. Like, wide receivers do when they're making a run, and so it's not his fault. But that's the other side of this, is how much guilt he's going to feel for any of this, whether Hamlin's okay or not. I mean, surely T. Higgins, being the great guy he is going to probably feel something, and he really shouldn't feel anything different than anyone else is feeling, which is just wishing well Damar Hamlin. But I feel like he's probably going to take some blame for that, and he really shouldn't, because it's not his fault. But it's just a horrible situation start to finish. But luckily, it seems like he's doing better now. Obviously, we don't know exactly what the status of his condition is going to be going forward. But it seems like he's doing better. And then also the donations that have come in for his charity, I'm sure, once he gets told how much money's been pulled in for that, he's going to be very excited. So I just wanted to end that on a little bit of a positive note, because there's been so much sadness around this whole thing. And it's hard to talk about anything else this week. We were talking about what to do this week, and really all we had was our usuals, which is Hamlin, and then our picks and our bum of the week. And it's tough to talk about much else when this is going on, but we're going to try, because That's what we have to do. There's other stuff going on, and not that it's more important than this, but it does need to be talked about. So with that being said, prayers for Hamlin.
Let's get into it.
Yep, we're going to get into it. We're going to move on to the bum of the week. Okay, bum of the week, a little bit of a lighter note. Man, the Commanders. There were so many good candidates for this week. The Eagles played poorly, but there wasn't really any one player on that team that played poorly, so it's kind of hard to pick that because, it's the whole team. Kirk Cousins is a prime example. We saw Kirk Cousins, we're like, oh yeah, it's got to be Kirk because 3 interceptions to 1 touchdown to a low completion percentage, low QBR. It's like Kirk Cousins, who's one of the best teams in the NFL right now with the Vikings, got to play better than that. And then Jen was like, oh yeah, what about Carson Wentz because he threw a couple interceptions as well. I was like, oh yeah, what about Ron Rivera because for those of you that didn't see the press conference after the Commanders game, I don't remember exactly what was said, but one of the guys was asking asking about the quarterback decision to play Wentz over let's say Heineke or someone else going into this game versus someone else, and trusting your season's not going to be ended on Wentz basically because they could have been eliminated last week, and then Ron Rivera's like, wait, we could be eliminated this week? Oh, I didn't know that. And then they got eliminated that week, so they're done. Doesn't matter what. There's no chance they make the playoffs unless, I guess, there's some massive stat correction that changes the outcome of a game this past week, but it's not going to happen. The Commanders are officially eliminated. Ron Rivera, you've done a lot as a coach. You were a veteran coach in this league. You did a lot of great things with the Panthers. You changed this team around midway through the season and ended up giving them some hope with Taylor Heineke, but then you played Wentz and didn't know that your season could be over this week, and that's something that most NFL fans that watch this whole thing know. And for you as a head coach not to know that and know that you need to go into this game playing your hardest, it seemed like his mindset was one of the things like the Titans this past week, which is let's rest everyone because it doesn't matter if we win or lose this game. What matters is the next week's game against the Jaguars. It seemed like he was in that mindset, even though that's not what the case was for the Commanders. But either way, he's bummed. Carson Wentz obviously bummed because he played a horrible game, 3 picks, gave the Browns the victory there, and Browns aren't going to be in the playoffs either. But it's just.
Well, bum of the week goes to him because his favorite wide receiver is apparently Grant Delpit and Denzel Ward for the Browns. I mean, that was an absolute atrocious showing out of Carson Wentz. There was no excuse for Ron Rivera to start him over Heineke. Heineke has played better all year, and Wentz is just not. So
well, the thing that I thought about,
really anything else you can say about that?
The thing that I was thinking is okay, start Wentz because as much as I think Wentz is not a good quarterback, especially after his play against the Browns, I don't think Taylor Heineke is that great of a quarterback either. Honestly, I think there's a reason he's been a backup for so long and he's not starting. And I think Wentz is probably backup at best position at this point too. But if I looked at it maybe before, I think I probably would have considered starting Wentz too if I was Ron Rivera this week over Heineke because Heineke wasn't the reason they were winning games. It was that defense that's been locked down, and he's been making plays, but he's also had a lot of turnovers. And so I think I would probably still would have gone with Taylor Heineke, but had Wentz warm on the bench in case Heineke starts playing poorly, and vice versa. So if I decided to start Wentz, let's have Heineke on the sideline. So when Carson Wentz starts 3 picks, we can put in Heineke and turn this thing around maybe. And that didn't happen. So they've been officially eliminated. I think that Ron Rivera's head coaching job is now up in the air. I don't know if it necessarily was beforehand because there's a lot of issues with that team outside of the coaching. Ron Rivera is not the issue with that team. At this point, it seems like he's a issue with that team. But I guess at this point, his job's probably on the line because I don't know how you as a head coach who just a couple weeks ago was definitively in the playoffs. You have yourself a seed and you're not even tied with anyone else. You have that as long as you don't choke the rest of the season. You have that playoff spot, and then lose it because you didn't know that you could be eliminated this week. Because at the end of the day, they could have lost this game with Taylor Heineke as well, and maybe would have. I mean, the Browns played well aside from the fact that there was a lot of turnovers. They just played well. But not knowing, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for not knowing what the stakes are of any individual game. So I don't know.
Not to mention.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, not to mention if you're a head coach of a team, you want to make sure that even if it's a game that it's going to be tight, you still want to play your heart out because the Titans, they didn't have a lot of starting players. They still played their hearts out against the Cowboys. Yeah. Maybe they win out. Maybe they might score more than they anticipated, testing out their new quarterback and all that. Who knows? they still went into that game with that mentality. They gave the Cowboys a ton of pressure, and they played their hearts out. Even if you don't think that you're not going to win this week, still like you have to put the pressure down, and I didn't see that at all from the Commanders. I probably would have started Heineke only because he's had enough rapport with the team so far and trying to get them into the playoffs. But still, as a coach, you have to know what the stakes are. You have to know the probabilities. You need to know all these things, especially if like you have 4 or 5 teams in the hunt and you're one of them. You want to do everything in your power to secure a dub. The fact that he didn't know that they could have been eliminated, honestly, embarrassing. Totally
Mhm.
embarrassing. It's not the same situation as the Titans do, where like, okay, they can lose this game if we have everyone healthy for the Jags this coming week, then we're fine with this, but we're
Well,
still going to play our hearts
well,
out.
see,
He didn't seem like to have that mentality.
that's the thing with the Titans, though, is like their win or loss versus the Cowboys did not matter at all. If they had won or lost, them playing against the Jaguars is what mattered for the win or lose because they
Mhm.
would have had a tied record or a winning record versus them, but they would have had the divisional tiebreaker win. And so the Titans benching players, it makes sense there. Not because I think it's good for teams to intentionally lose, because I hate when teams tank. But that wasn't a situation where the Titans are tanking for a good pick. They said, let's rest our starters because we can
Right.
still make the playoffs. All that matters is that last game of the season because whether we win or lose today does not affect at all anything in terms of their playoff making. All that
Yeah.
mattered is that last game with the Jaguars. And so that makes a little bit of sense.
Mhm.
And the Commanders not being in that position because they're fighting for a wild card spot, which last week there was a good handful of teams still in that for the NFC. And even if you didn't know you could be eliminated, why would you not want to play your best knowing that you are in the hunt between them, the Seahawks, the Packers, the Lions? Like, those are some teams that have been getting hot. You have to play your heart out so you can win that game. So if Ron Rivera loses his job, fine. I don't really care about the Commanders as a franchise, so I don't know if they like Ron Rivera. I'm guessing not at this point, especially for starting Wentz. I'm guessing Wentz will not have a starting job next year. I don't know how he had one this
Yeah.
year, but he certainly won't have one next year. No chance. He will be a
I
backup at
think this
best.
just showed, I mean, the fact that they have given Ron Rivera way too many chances with this team and, with a second chance at coaching after the debacle that was the Panthers. And I really think, I mean, that this is kind of just Ron Rivera's fault. The whole organization as a whole is just kind of toxic. And I mean, not to get too crazy with things, but just kind of has a toxic and losing culture, and you see that in almost like every facet of what is going on with the Commanders. So I mean, hopefully he loses his job because I like to see NFL teams that are good and that actually can do well and play well, like the Lions turning it around this year and actually playing well after being so terrible for so long. But you know frustrating to see for sure
Yeah, and
if you're a
the
Washington
last
fan.
thing I'll say about the Commanders, this is the third and final reason they're bums of the week, aside from Ron Rivera and Carson Wentz. They announced their new mascot. I didn't realize I didn't realize they didn't have a mascot until
Yeah,
they announced their new mascot. It is a pig in
it is a
a
pig.
maroon military hat, and his name is Major Tuddy. So I will leave it at that. You know how awful it is just by me saying it.
Oh,
It's horrible. So that is another reason. Yeah, everyone hates it. All the articles talking about it are like, yeah, this is getting given a
Garbage.
thumbs down by every fan. So that's bum of the week.
Thumbs
You guys are
down.
bums. This is his second
Thumbs
to
down.
at
last
this
bum of the
point, call
week.
them the Washington Warthogs.
Oh, Washington Warthogs. All right, Washington Warthogs, you're bum of the week. We'll move on. We're actually talking about some new content this week. We are talking about the NBA. So this is going to be primarily
Yes,
Frank because
sir.
Frank is our NBA guy. But two things. The one that I wanted to talk about was Luka getting a 60-20-10 triple-double. That's historic. And then another historic game apparently this weekend that I didn't even know about. 'Cause I keep up with the NBA a little bit, but not so much as Frank or anyone else. I knew about Luka's triple-double, but I did not know about the other guy we're going to talk about. So I'll let you get into that, Frank. You can go ahead.
Yeah, no, so super, super fun and really crazy game last night in Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell went off for 71 points in the second game against the Bulls that they just played. Absolutely, just, like I said, went crazy. Scored 5 points in the first quarter, and after that just took off. Joins the 8th highest, I think he's 8th highest on the list of all-time scorers in the NBA. Right now, right next to Wilt, Kobe, and then he scored one more than Devin Booker did against the Celtics a few years ago. But really just a historic game. I want to pull up some stats from that. He it's the highest total in league history, and or 8th highest total in league history, and the most points since Kobe Bryant scored 81 against Toronto in 2006. Then he has become only the 7th player to join the 70-point club, along such like Bryant, David Robinson, Devin Booker, Elgin Baylor, and again Wilt Chamberlain, of course. And crazy stat line from him. He recorded, I believe, let's look at last night. He played for 50 minutes. He had 71 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds. Just an absolutely crazy game from Devin Booker. They needed it to beat the Bulls, unfortunately, but rarefied air for a guy from Cleveland, of all places. So that's really exciting. Really exciting to see where this young Cavs team is going to go. They've been playing really well. I was at a game against the Mavericks, and you were talking about Luka. They kind of boat raced the Mavericks when they were playing with Luka. Struggled a little bit this last week against the Mavericks, and ended up beating them in overtime. Ended up beating the Bulls in overtime last night. And this is just a team, I think, that's still a little young, a little on the younger side, but they have that championship window, is opening up for them. And, the next 2 and 3 years, I would fully expect, if they can keep everybody healthy between, the 4 certified All-Stars that are on their team with Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley, they should definitely have a championship in the next, 2 to 3 years, if not at least an Eastern Conference championship, because, that team is just so skilled. They have everything, and those 2 bigs, between Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, the way that they defend from the perimeter, and can switch, it's just that the team is, as Gian would say, defensive monstrosity, it's hard to beat them. When they play as well as they do on a consistent nightly basis. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it's actually, like you said, there's only a few people who have ever scored more than that in one game. Wilt Chamberlain being most of them, but he also played back at a different time.
Being 6 of them.
Yeah, and so it's kind of comparable to some of the NFL stats, where a lot of these records that go back to like the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it's like you can't really compare that because it was a different game back then to today. So the only time that someone has gotten more than 71 points in a game in the last few decades was Kobe. So he's in a very elite group being there. Obviously, Booker had very close a couple years ago, but not quite to the level of Donovan Mitchell last night. And then Luka's game, 60, 20, 10, triple-double, and then a great post-game interview saying he needs a beer. Love it. But it seems like these are both 2 teams that could be dangerous for the foreseeable future. I think Cavs probably have a better all-around team because they're a lot younger, they have more pieces. But I think the Mavericks' problem right now is probably that they're not building around Luka. They're not giving him enough help because there's only so much he can do on his own, and clearly he is doing a lot. But they do need some help. So assuming they do that, that's going to be a pretty decent couple of teams here for the NBA for the foreseeable future, because they're both fantastic young players that have many years left to play, and so it'll be fun watching these guys keep going. Both these guys are setting records at this point, and so watching them play, even though I don't watch too much NBA, it's fun to watch games like that. and games like
As a changing of the guard, it's really,
yeah.
I mean, LeBron just had his 38th birthday, so you're seeing these young guys that got drafted, 2, 3 years ago, really stepping up and keeping the game interesting. As he gets older, we get to see, these young stars kind of rising up to take his place. So.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll be covering more NBA content very soon because the NFL season's almost over, and so we are going to fill that time with things like NBA, UFC, just kind of whatever's going on in the sports world we'll be talking about. But that's all for NBA right now. We're going to move on to a little discussion about the playoffs. Now, last week we did our kind of predictions on what we think is going to happen. Now it's been very narrowed down in terms of the number of teams that still have a chance at the playoffs. So we're going to talk about these real quick. We'll start off with the NFC because it's easier. The Packers, Seahawks, and Lions can all still make it. Here's what it takes for each one to win. The Packers have to win against the Lions, and that's it for them. The Seahawks have to win against the Rams and have the Packers lose to the Lions. The Lions have to win against the Packers and have the Seahawks lose to the Rams. So the only team of these three that can make it without needing help from an outside game is the Packers. If they beat the Lions, they make the playoffs because they have the tiebreaker against the Seahawks. So if the Seahawks win their game and the Packers win, Packers get it. If the Seahawks win and the Lions win, the Seahawks get it because they beat Lions earlier in the season. And if the Seahawks lose and the Lions win, the Lions are in. So kind of a little triangle here with which team can go which way. But who do you think is taking this, Gian? Which of these three teams do you think is taking the last wildcard spot for the NFC?
This is tough because I would argue Seattle's got a favorable matchup. Let's see, who's Seattle playing? Because I know the Lions are playing the Rams. Okay, so Seattle's got a semi-favorable matchup. I'm praying that Baker Mayfield sauces the Seahawks. Sauces the Seahawks.
Me too. I need some of that the Rams MVP Baker Mayfield. Let's go. 51 points.
MVP Baker. Yeah, no. This is what because the Rams defense is rather they're seeming to get back on track with things, although not entirely because the Chargers did defeat the Rams at home. The more probable thing here is the Seahawks win out and just eliminate both the Packers and the Lions. I would love to see the Lions win out against the Packers, but in all honesty, if the Seahawks do end up losing, that game is a complete toss-up. I want the Lions to win, but I think the Packers are going to make the playoffs. That Lions secondary is still just not that good. But the Lions do have heart. They have grit. They're easily the grittiest team there is in the field. Honestly, it's a toss-up for all of them. Do I have to pick one? Because if I do, I'd say the Packers is the more obvious choice on paper.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with the Packers just because I feel like this. I really want the Seahawks to lose because I'd rather see the Lions or the Packers make it than the Seahawks. And so I want the Seahawks to lose, and then we have the Packers-Lions game, and we're watching that thinking whoever wins makes the playoffs, rather than it doesn't matter who wins because either the Packers make it or the Seahawks make it, so the Lions are already done. So I want the Seahawks to lose. I think the Packers, just because they have a cleaner path, and I think that they're a more complete team than the Lions, so I think they probably make it. But I think the Seahawks probably win out against the Rams. I mean, I really hope they don't because I'd like to have the Lions at least have a chance. But that's what I think is going to happen. I don't know. It's tough because these are all kind of three teams that are pretty even, honestly, I think. All the times these teams have played, it's been very close games. The Lions-Seahawks game was close. The Packers-Lions games have been close. So we'll see. I mean, we'll find out next week, but my bet is the Packers, but my hope is the Lions. What about you, Frank? Who do you think is making it between these teams?
Yeah, I think that the Packers are going to take it. I just don't see the Lions coming up with something successful. They beat the Packers, I think, back in week 8, 15-6. But I think that LaFleur and Rodgers have proven that they have a good track record when it comes to getting to the playoffs, at least. Now, once they're in the playoffs, that's a little bit of a different story. But, I think that the Packers are going to get in. I think the Seahawks will probably beat the Rams, but that doesn't really matter. If the Packers win, and I think the Packers will take matters into their own hands and take the dub. So
Cool. So we're all in agreement there. Let's move on to the AFC. So currently in the hunt still is the Patriots, Dolphins, Steelers, Jaguars, and Titans. A lot of teams. For starters, it is Jaguars versus Titans for the division title. I think Jaguars take that handsomely. I think we all agree there. Mm-hmm. Interrupt me if I'm wrong, but I think we all agree Jaguars are going to beat the Titans and take that and make the playoffs with the 4th seed. So it comes down to Patriots, Dolphins, and Steelers, which is very tough because none of these teams have particularly free matchups this week, given the status of their season. So I don't really know. The Dolphins play the Jets, which the Jets suck right now, but the Dolphins are also hurt. The Steelers play the Browns, which Browns aren't that good, but they're coming off a win, as are the Steelers. But it's also a divisional game, so those are always toss-ups. So you don't really know what's going to happen there. And then it is the Patriots and Bills, I believe, is the Patriots game this week. Those all seem like games that they could all lose. And so I don't really know what happens. I feel like one of these teams is going to win one of them, and that's what's going to end up taking the spot. I don't feel like they all lose, and then we just see who ends up having the tiebreaker of the worst teams, which I think gives Patriots the edge. I think they currently have that because of the strength of schedule tiebreaker. But what do you guys think happens here? We obviously all think Jaguars are going to win, but who do you think takes that last wild card seed? I think it's going to be the Steelers, honestly. I think the Steelers win their game, and I think that the Patriots and Dolphins probably both lose. But what about you guys?
I'm going to say that the Steelers are going to lose because I think the Browns have this weird thing going on where they win. I think you said this last week, Ethan, but about one of the teams we were talking about. But they kind of just win games that don't really matter, and have a penchant for doing that. So, earlier in the season would have been nice if they could have won a few more games that did matter. But I see them, winning this, unfortunately. I think that Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper's connection has really been improving. Last week we kind of saw that. And this week, hopefully we'll see it more. This is really a chance for Deshaun Watson to show that he was worth 4 first-round picks. I think that the Jags are going to take it. I think the Jags are going to win against the Titans, and I think that everything's kind of going to go their way in order for them to get into the that last spot. I think they're kind of the Lions of the AFC, where it's just kind of a feel-good story, and the NFL kind of likes those marketing things where it's like, ooh, the hot, young team with Trevor Lawrence, made it to the playoffs. So that's good for marketing, I think, and I think that they'll make that.
All right. What about you, Gian? Who do you think takes it?
This is tough. I mean, Miami doesn't have any of their starting quarterbacks. I mean, Tua looks like he's still not going to play due to the concussion. Teddy Bridgewater injured his finger last game, and then Skylar Thompson, our third string, had to come in. I'm not too sure about the Dolphins, especially with that robust Jets defense. And then again, like Frank said, the Browns, I think the Browns might actually have a chance at this playoff fixture. I'm not too sure because they're 7-9. If they win, they'll go 8-9. Miami loses, they'll go 8-9, and if the Patriots lose, they'll go 8-9, and so will the Steelers.
The Browns are out. They're
not
out. Making it.
They're not making it. Oh, okay, then.
Yeah, it's between Patriots, Dolphins, and Steelers for that wild card spot.
Dang.
And I mean, potentially, Jaguars could lose against the Titans and make that wild card spot, but I don't think they lose against the Titans, so we'll ignore that.
Yeah,
factor.
I don't see the Jaguars losing against the Titans. I think Trevor Lawrence is on the hottest streak of his life. He's going to flame the Titans, but I mean, this is an absolute toss-up. I mean, who wins if all three teams lose?
I think
That's what honestly.
that's the Patriots, I believe, because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of phrased weirdly, but Patriots would have the edge over Miami, and then Pittsburgh has a worse conference record, and so that makes the Patriots have that tiebreaker. So that's why I kind of think it might be the Patriots, because I think they might all lose this game, but the Steelers looked good last week, man. I mean, they didn't score a ton of points, but Kenny Pickett on that last drive was slinging some ball. He was seeding his receivers, just an absolute, just threw that seed right to him. Perfect balls. I think they might take it, and I don't think they win a playoff game, but I think the Steelers can go, make it in and play the Bengals or the Bills in the first round and, take their honorable exit from the 2022-2023 NFL season.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. We always talk about this. Mike Tomlin never has a losing season, so
I've been saying it, man.
I'll hop on that train with you, Ethan. I think it might be the Steelers.
Awesome. So I think we're pretty consensus there. But that's it for the playoffs. Next week we will have our official playoff matchups, and we'll be talking about that predictions as opposed to who we think is going to make it. So we'll go and move on to our picks this week.
Picks of the week.
Picks.
Let's go.
Gian is going to be angry because listen to this. Unfortunately, we are omitting the Bengals-Bills bet from our picks this week, but we all picked Bengals plus 1.5, so it didn't affect any of our head-to-head records. It just affected our total records. So this week, I went 10-5. Gian went 8-7, and Frank went 7-8. So I have tied it up with Gian. We are currently tied overall head-to-head record. I'm angry because I thought the Falcons won by a point. They were on like the 4-yard line and just couldn't get a touchdown. Otherwise, I'd be winning right now. But we're tied going into this last week. So Gian and I are battling it out for the jersey this week. Now, I think we decided if we tie overall at the end of this thing that Frank is just going to buy us each half a jersey. So I think that's what's going to happen if we tie. But I'm thinking that I'm just going to win outright this week, and Gian is not. And so I'll get my free jersey from you boys, and you'll try again next year. But we'll go and get into the picks. A couple games are not on here due to the Bills-Bengals thing from this past week. So the Patriots-Bills game is not on here, and neither is the Bengals-Ravens game. Scheduling issues, and then also what happened. We don't really know what's happening with that. So those games will not be bet on between us. We're just going to bet on all the other games. Spreads as usual. And let's get into it. First game, Chiefs at Raiders. Raiders plus 7.5, Chiefs minus 7.5. What are you doing, Gian?
I'm going with the Raiders.
Oh, I wanted to do Raiders too. It's too many points.
See
because
how Stidham played?
Stidham played well, and then last time they played, they barely won. And it's been this way always. Patrick Mahomes, even last year, the Raiders ended up being the team that got a win over the Chiefs. But they were close games, man. The Raiders and Chiefs always managed to put on good games. So I think Raiders plus 7, it seems like too high of a spread. I understand the Chiefs are up here and the Raiders are down here in terms of record and performance right now.
Really well.
But it's...
Wait, is it plus 7 or 7.5?
7.5.
Plus 7.5.
So Raiders, yeah. I mean, they have to win by more than a touchdown.
Yeah.
Which...
I would go with the Raiders as well.
Okay, cool. So we're all in agreement there with the Raiders plus 7.5. I mean, like I said, despite the fact that the record is deceptive with these two teams, the Raiders and the Chiefs always put on very good, close matchups. I think the Chiefs win it, obviously. I think the Chiefs win it because they're fighting for that 1 seed in the AFC. It's still very much open, so that kind of makes me think that they might win by more than 7.5. But just knowing how they've played against the Raiders, usually it's hard to bet that. So plus 7.5 Raiders is an easy one for me this week. Moving on to the Titans versus the Jaguars. Now, I know we all think the Jaguars are going to win, but the Jaguars are favored to win by 6.5 points. So they have to win by a touchdown. So I don't really know if you guys think they're going to win by that much or less, but Frank, what do you think is going to happen with this?
I'm going with the Titans.
You said
going with the Titans. I don't see. Yeah, I don't see the Jags covering that. I think they'll win by field goal, maybe 5 points, but I don't see them winning by a touchdown. Okay,
I am going to go It's tough because I'm going to go Jags. I'm not going to second guess myself. I'm going Jags minus 6.5. It's weird, though, because they're not playing Malik Willis for some reason. You think they'd play their fresh young QB, get him some reps, but they're not doing that. They're playing Dobbs, who actually played well last week, but not good enough. This is going to be the determinant of, is Derrick Henry enough to literally carry this team to the playoffs by himself or not? So, Jags minus 6.5. What about you, Gian? What are you doing, Jags or Titans?
I'm doing the Jags. Trevor Lawrence is on the hottest streak of his life, like I said. The Jags want to put this game to bed and make it to the playoffs and show that they got what it takes to be within the top teams, and they're going to be fighting. Trevor Lawrence is going to be fighting. The whole team's going to be fighting. They have a great offense. Titans secondary is depleted. Give me the Jaguars all day.
Awesome. Next, I might have to just retract my statement from earlier. It's Jets at Dolphins. The Dolphins -1. I know I said I feel like the Dolphins are going to lose, but the Jets were horrible last week. And Teddy Bridgewater is a serviceable QB. I mean, he started very recently in the NFL and played well. So I might go Dolphins here. Is Teddy playing? He's playing, right? Or did he get injured?
Yeah, he's playing.
Yeah, Teddy's finger is hurt as a result of last game. He had to leave the game early as a result of that. So I'm not his whether he plays or not is questionable at the moment. If he's starting, I think more than likely it's going to be Skylar Thompson. But Teddy might be able to play, so I don't really know.
He dislocated the pinky finger on his right hand. I mean, what if Skylar Thompson plays? Is that like what? Tell me about Skylar Thompson, Gian. I don't know anything about that guy. If you do, you know.
Well, aside from him being our third string, he's all right. He's our, like I said, he's our third string. Let me check his stats for this past week. I mean, he didn't do amazing. I believe he got picked off, but I mean, he's all right. He still needs some NFL experience. I feel like he's improved at least in pocket presence. But I mean, the Jets defense, they're too good. I feel like they're one of the stronger defenses in the league. So I'm more so afraid that the Dolphins won't be able to cover or even make it to the playoffs because we really don't have any. Last week he put up 12 for 21. That's roughly 50% for 104 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And I mean, it's nothing too spectacular. He came in around halfway through the game over Teddy B. Teddy B's stats are roughly about the same. So I mean, hit or miss. You can take a chance on the guy, but I'm not. If we're doing picks, I'm not taking the Dolphins here. I think actually, let me think about this a little more. Frank, what do you think?
The spread is -1. That's the thing with this game is it's -1 for the Dolphins. So you're basically picking a winner. And it's tough because the Jets sucked last week too. They both have bad offenses at this point. The Dolphins have a better offense than the Jets, even with Skylar Thompson, I feel like. But the Jets have a better defense than the Dolphins. So it's... I don't know, man. I don't know what to do.
I'm redacting my statement from earlier. Forget Green Bay. I didn't realize we're playing at home. It is hot in Florida right now. It was 90 degrees the day before, and I live north of Miami. I can only imagine how much hotter Miami is going to be.
Dolphins.
Give me the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Dolphins are going to make it to the playoffs. Sorry, Green Bay. No, not Green Bay. Who did I? Patriots. I don't know. Steelers. Sorry, Steelers. Dolphins are going to win it, and we're going to beat the Jets. It's the Dolphins.
Oh, dude, that home field advantage, I think, might swing it for me. That's tough, man. All right. What are you doing, Frank? Are you doing Jets or Dolphins here?
I'm going with the Dolphins. I think that overall they're more talented. And, I mean, the Jets have just been playing atrociously, so there's not really much to say about that.
All right. Browns at Steelers. Steelers at -2.5. I got Steelers -2.5. That's... Kenny Pickett's getting warm. It's a home game. Mike Tomlin needs to not go negative. This is a perfect storm for the Steelers to just get a quick, nothing spectacular, just a nice field goal win against the disgusting Browns. So I'm going Steelers -2.5. What about you guys?
I'm going with the Browns. I think that Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper kind of showed this week that they are legitimate. I've been doubting them quite a bit. But, I mean, Amari Cooper had 2 touchdowns, I think. And Deshaun Watson finally looked like a shadow of his old self. So I think that the Browns will take that pretty easily and cover.
What about you, Gian?
I'm gonna have to side with Frank here because I think the Steelers are gonna play their butts out this game. They're gonna go crazy. I think the Browns defense is just too good.
The Steelers
Especially that
defense
pass
isn't?
rush.
You don't think T.J. Watt's going to get 9 sacks on Deshaun Watson this weekend?
I don't know, man. I can't predict that kind of thing, but I mean, let me tell you something. Browns pass rush is still one of the best there are in the league. They still have
Not as good as the Steelers,
Nick
though.
Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I know, but it all comes down to Kenny Pickett, Deshaun. Kenny Pickett's been on fire. Deshaun's starting to get a roll. They still have. I don't know.
I mean, hey, I'm glad you picked the
You just
Browns.
want me to pick the,
No,
I'm
keep
picking
the Browns
I'm
pick.
sorry.
Keep the Browns
I'm sorry, I'm
pick.
picking the Browns.
But
But
the Steelers have won the last 3 in a row. And they're going to win. All right, moving on. Yeah, that's it. We'll move on. I don't want to persuade you. I want to win the jersey outright, so I'm going to just leave it at that. Texans at Colts. Colts minus 2.5. What are you doing? This is actually.
I'll go with
I don't
Colts.
care about this game. Colts versus Texans. I mean, what the heck?
give me the Texans.
You said Texans?
Dang.
Texans.
I think the Colts take it this week. I think that they've been having some pretty poor games recently, but they're going to bounce back this week, especially against the Texans.
Okay, and then you said Texans, Gian?
Yeah, I said the Texans.
All right, I'll go Texans as
Which
well.
I don't. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of that pick. I feel filthy.
I don't think that
But I mean,
this
the
game is
Texans-
just who cares. They both suck. I don't know.
Yeah, both teams have nothing. Here's the thing: both teams are probably going to rest their starters. Both their seasons are over.
Yeah.
Oof. I didn't think about that. Taken into consideration. Oh, they're both going to bench their starters this week. I'm still going to go with Texans. Texans might want to win one more game.
Yeah, like I said, I just
Before
don't
the season
think
ends.
I don't think this one matters so much, but you know. Moving on is Bucks at Falcons. Falcons at home minus 4.5. This is a kind of a tough one. The Falcons actually played very well last week. Desmond Ridder figured it out, but so did the Bucks. And the Bucks said that they're not going to rest starters in this last game. I don't know if that's just let's see, we're not going to rest them, but then they actually do, or what. But I feel like Falcons being favored to win by 4.5 is kind of dirty right now.
Did the Bucks win the division?
Yes. They've clinched.
This game. So I mean,
I think
I'm going
then
Bucks.
it doesn't matter for. Yeah, it doesn't matter for the Falcons then. So I'm going Bucks as well. They don't really have any motivation to win. They're going to want a better pick. So I think they'll probably lose.
So are we all in agreement with the Bucks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks that way.
Bucks plus 4.5. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just Bucks might get warm going into the playoffs, you know. Another game. Who cares? It sucks at the end of the NFL season when games don't matter anymore. But Panthers at Saints. Saints are favored to win by 3.5 at home.
Saints all day.
You said Saints?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, Saints played well last week. They beat the Eagles.
Yeah. I'll take the Saints. I mean, they have a better team. Panthers are very hit or miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me the Saints.
All right. Vikings at Bears. Vikings minus 5.5. Kind of a tough one.
Yeah.
Divisional game at home for the Bears, and the Vikings sucked last week, and they don't really win by that much. It's honestly kind of a tough one.
I'll take the Bears. I think Justin Fields will get this done.
All right, Gian.
Where do the Vikings stand with regard to the playoffs? So they need to win this week, and hopefully, if they win this week and the Eagles lose this week, they'll have the number one seed. I think the Vikings will play pretty tough. Give me the Vikings on this one, actually.
-5.5. That's the problem with me is the spread being that much, because although it is the Vikings who are a far better team, they have not been winning by that many points when they do win. And when they played against the Bears early in the season, they won by a touchdown, but that was also before Justin Fields really got warm. And Justin Fields kind of sucked last week too. Yeah, I'm going to go Vikings as well. Never mind, I forgot.
What do you mean Justin Fields sucked? Justin Fields had like 300 yards rushing last week.
And he had like a 20% completion rating for like 80 yards passing, so he's a quarterback, not a running back. He was horrible last week. Unless you want to debate me on that, but I mean, a quarterback's job is to pass, and he did not do that.
I agree. I mean, I think that part of it, though, is his wide receivers. It's not necessarily all his fault. It has a lot to do with coaching as well. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not just his fault, but he does have, like, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool at this point. He does have a couple of guys who are good enough that he doesn't really have an excuse for playing that poorly. I mean, like
neither of them have played well enough this season. Though Chase Claypool got traded for a reason. He was not playing well.
It's because George Pickens replaced him.
Yeah. So, but that's what I'm saying is that he's not really, I mean, that good of a wide receiver. I think in a year to 2 years, people forget who both those people are. I don't see them being,
I guess,
staple.
I mean, Cole Kmet.
I don't know.
I mean, I think they have enough.
I feel like Cole Kmet played pretty well. I genuinely think he has the weapons there. Honestly, like David Montgomery, they have a phenomenal running back. He didn't do anything. Because Justin Fields decided to run the ball the entire game. So I mean, like you said, Ethan, I completely agree. Quarterback should be passing and should be focusing on passing. If you're a rushing quarterback, that's an added bonus. But you should be able. You still have decent receivers to throw to. I mean, yeah. I mean, for me, he was playing like a bum, especially given the matchup that he was given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on is New York Giants at Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are favored to win by 14 points. After a big loss, and the Giants had a big win, Jalen Hurts might come back. He's expected to play, but he's still questionable, and he's had a few weeks off, so is that good or bad? But they're favored to win by 14 points. What do you guys think? That seems like too many points.
Too many points.
Way.
Too many points. Give me the Giants.
No way.
Especially after what we saw with the Saints. No, thank you. Give me the points. Give me the Giants on this one.
Yeah. What about you, Frank?
I agree. I'll take the Giants.
Giants, cool.
Take the Giants.
Yeah, just too many points at this point in the season. I mean, Philly's fighting for that number one seed, but at the same time, they got dogged last week. So, Rams at Seahawks. Seahawks are favored to win by 6.5 points. So by a touchdown, the Seahawks are favored to win against the Rams. What do we think here? I think we all want the Rams to win. So are we betting on that, or are we just gonna play it safe and bet on the Seahawks, or what are we doing?
I'll go a little outside the box and say that the Play-Doh MVP Nickelodeon slime-tastic whatever they're saying is going to lead the Rams to the victory this week. I don't know why did they even do that stream. I never got why they did that Nickelodeon.
I think it's to get kids interested in football. Honestly, I think that's the reason. I feel like I gotta go Rams too. I feel like the stories, like they have that game before the Packers-Lions game for a reason. They set the schedule so that they have that game, then it's the Packers-Lions. It's like, if the Seahawks win, why do we care about the Packers-Lions game in terms of like which one of the two teams is going to take the spot? So I feel like it's got to be Rams.
Yeah.
It's got to be Rams. And let me tell you something. Cam Akers is heating up. That guy's
That's true,
fired.
dude. Cam Akers is like a top.
Cam Akers.
I think he's like top 3 in the past few weeks, or maybe even top 2 or top 1, like in terms of fantasy.
Yeah. No, Cam Akers is a monster. He actually helped me out a lot this week. So I'm riding on the Rams. Baker Mayfield might make a comeback. Seattle seems like they have a lot of injuries. And then you know what? Yeah, I think Baker makes a comeback game this game, and he kept it pretty close with the Chargers, who have all their defense back, all their for the most
And
part.
their offense is
Chargers
Yeah.
defense is
full.
nothing. Yeah,
Corey Mack and Joey
yeah.
Bosa.
So
Yeah.
give me the Rams.
All right. This is the easiest game of the week to pick. Chargers at Broncos. Chargers are favored by 3. I'm going Chargers. You're welcome to go Broncos.
That's
if you want
it?
to, but I'm going Chargers
They're-
-3.
Jeez, only 3.
Yeah, no,
Chargers
yeah,
all day.
Yeah, I'm going Chargers as well. Broncos have no reason to continue
It's
playing.
a
Chargers
it's a
want to
home
have a
game
higher
for the
seed.
Broncos. Hey, Gian, it's a home game for the Broncos, and they're favored to lose. So, if I were you, I'd pick the Broncos, Gian, is all I'm saying. You should pick the...
No. I'll stick with the Chargers.
You should pick the Broncos. Okay, whatever. Are you picking Chargers as
It
well?
is a
Frank?
yeah, it's a safer pick.
Yeah, Chargers.
Yeah, it's easy. I hate it. But, yeah, they're going to win that game handsomely. Ooh, here's another thick spread. Cardinals at 49ers. 49ers by 14. That is a lot of points, but the Cardinals suck, and the Niners are really good right now.
I'm going with the Niners. Brock Purdy is that guy.
I'm going with the Niners. The Niners want that. They're now they're easily one game away from the second seed. They have the second seed right now. If the Eagles lose and the Niners win, they get. I'm pretty sure there's like some seeding dispute, but their records are tied. They might go for the number 1 seed. Give me the Niners on this one. They want to maintain that top seeding. They're going to blow out the Cardinals. Cardinals, I think, are without D-Hop. Robbie Anderson and D-Hop are both hurt. James Conner is hurt. Cardinals, their season's over. They're probably not going to risk their players for injury. Give me the 49ers in this one. And they're at home, too. So
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I said it, I think, 3 weeks ago that Niners are the exception to too many points, and I'm sticking with that.
Yeah.
Moving on, 2 games left. Dallas at Commanders. Commanders plus 5.5. Cowboys minus 5.5. So the Cowboys are favored to win by 5.5 points. Seems like kind of a small spread given how good they are and how bad the commies are.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go Cowboys.
I agree. I think General Tutty is nuts.
General Tutty ain't gonna. General Tutty ain't motivating the boys to get anything done. Gian, I'm assuming you're on the same page about this.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. General Tutty's gonna get smacked around. He's gonna be turned into bacon. He's gonna be turned into Dallas beef brisket or something. Pork brisket or something. Pulled pork.
Crispy
I don't care.
bacon.
I don't care.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, it's going to be the Cowboys all day. They're going to be fighting for that top seed.
All right.
Forget them.
Last game of the regular season, Detroit Lions at Green Bay Packers. Packers are favored to win by 4.5. What are we doing, boys? What are we doing here?
I'm going with the Packers. Packers by, yeah. Packers. I think the Packers win it.
So
Actually, you know what? No, give me the Lions. I think the Packers win it by a last-minute field goal.
I don't know. This is so tough. I don't like it. I think
Lions
it's a high
offense has been on fire.
I don't like this game. Lions.
Both teams have
Lions.
won the last
Lions.
4 out of 5 games, dude. Give me the Lions. I'm
Lions
sorry.
plus 4.5.
I want to see the Lions win. Win.
I'm going Lions. Oh, so Gian, the only game you and I disagreed on was the Steelers game.
The Browns and Steelers game.
So does that mean our jerseys coming down to that game? That feels disrespectful because that's not even I guess it's an important game, but not near as much as the other ones. But I guess that's how the cookie crumbles. So that's it for the picks
That's how the
this
cookie
week.
crumbles.
We'll see next week. Either me or Gion's getting a free jersey. Probably gonna be me because the Steelers are gonna win. They're favored to win by 2.5, so that's tough. But
Yeah.
I was hoping you.
Gian, you want to sign off?
I was hoping you'd.
All right, well-
Packers and then.
You guys take it easy, stay frosty, and in our description we're gonna put a link to
Hamlin's donation.
Hamlin's
his charity.
his charity.
Yeah,
so
so that
like and
you guys
subscribe.
can go donate.
Thank you guys, and take it easy.
Peace.
Yes, sir. Peace.